Let me share my screen. Just confirm once you're able to see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So since yesterday we were just discussing on one of the key object, like cost element accounting. So then we understood there are two types of cost element: primary cost element and secondary cost element. Then we understood what are the types of primary cost. So we just touched based on the 01 category, primary cost, and 11 revenues, sales deductions, and external settlement. Today we are exclusively like, let's focus on what are those secondary costs. Okay. So in simple, like, from FI, when you talk about primary cost, it is like, those are the GLs, FI GLs, where the cost will move from FI to CO. Whereas in secondary cost, which is in within the CO. Okay, let's go and understand, like, each cost category one by one, so that we will have thorough logical understanding of these concepts. Okay, so since we have, let's the first one. Okay, let's go with these are the main secondary cost element we're going to use within the CO. Let's talk about the first one, internal settlement. Okay. Don't worry about the word settlement. It's a very simple understanding. We will understand layman language. It is settlement is nothing but you are transferring the values. Okay, settlement is nothing but you are transferring the values. Question comes where we are transferring. So within the CO. Okay, CO to CO. So you can create internal order and we will transfer those costs. In very simple, like, this internal settlement, it's a cost element. Okay, this is also one of the cost element. In the beginning class, I've explained what is cost element is nothing but a cost carrier. Okay, so this is a cost element will be used to transfer the cost from one cost object to other cost object. Okay, other cost object. Let's take one example. So, let's take about internal order. This is a one of the cost object. So just imagine, like, your company is launching a product, launching a new product. So what you will have first thing, so company will have a budget first. Okay, and they will have actuals. Okay, our objective when we're talking about internal settlement and we are talking about cost element, finally we need to transfer this cost from one cost object to the other cost object. Let's take about we want to transfer something to the cost centers. Okay, the centers. So just imagine to launch that product, you have a budget of 20,000, where the end of the activity or end of all the activities, your actual was only 18,000. So now the management will say, like, once you created this internal order, you record all the cost, and now this cost, you're launching a new product, right? And this is a advertising, correct? Yeah, yes, advertising. Okay, this is an advertising. So you're launching a new product, you want to make some advertising. For that advertising you have created an internal order, and so for that advertising you have a budget. At the end of the event, so you have incurred some actuals. So now to close this internal order, you need to transfer the cost to the another cost object or cost center when you want to transfer this cost center, right? So in the system, there are two approaches, very important approaches, how you can perform these settlements. The word itself is settlement is, it's a very simple understanding. You are transferring the values. Okay. So in the system, we have settlements can be done in two ways. settlements can be done in two ways. The first way, you can have a same GL account, which is like basically that FI advertising, right? You talk about this advertising. Advertising is a FIGL. How we will say it is an FIGL? When you're creating the GL, if you give the cost element category 01, then it become a FIGL. Okay. So you can use the same FIGL, or you can create, you can create, can create a separate GL with cost element category, with cost element category 21. Okay. So again, it's all management decisions, how they want to transfer these costs, whether to use with the same GL or through the secondary cost element GL. Okay. There is a one particular transaction code. What we will do. So there is a transaction. Let me show you in the system so that a quick, you can decide in the system, you can decide how you want to transfer, whether you want to use FIGL, whether you want to create a separate GL. Okay. The transaction in the meantime, I'll just okay 06. We'll cover all this in details because you will understand just now conceptual understanding. So settlements can be done in two ways, whether you can use the FIGL and move the values to the cost centers, or you can create a separate GL. So entries will be like, whenever you are settling, right? So you are settling to the cost centers. So debit cost center and credit your advertising GL. Okay. Or if you're using internal order, you can use internal order. Okay. I want to show you how you will create. It's a depth concept, but we will cover all this. But now for you to understand, just understand this way. 2, 3, just right away. System will have that functionality, whether how you want to do the settlements. That's the reason. Okay, 06. Okay. Let's take any one allocation structure, assignments. Okay. So separate cost. If you go and see the settlement, let's take any one controlling area, any one. If you just click new entries, see here you can classify. So today I want to move something to the fixed assets. Okay. Cost, I need to move to the GLs. Okay. Something I want to move to the cost object. you know Here, whenever you click here, right, when you click this indicator, this will become as a FI, the same GL which we are talking here, this FIGL, right? When you click here, the cost will become FIGL. Okay. If you click that indicator, if you are not clicking that indicator, system will allow to maintain a separate cost element category here, so that when you do this settlements, so the system will perform separately like this. So what system will do? System will go with this 21 category and the settlement will happen. Okay. This is a main logic how internal settlement will work. Either you can do it with the same GL, or you can do with a separate GL with a 21 cost category. Okay. So the next one, so far clear? It is just a simple understanding how you want to settle the cost. So you can use with the same GLs, or you can create a separate GL with cost element category 21. So then you can perform the settlements. Okay.
So is there a similar way to internal settlement with the WBS also it happens?
Yes,
Any
yes, yes, yes. It will be there. Okay.
any examples if it's fine for related to WBS?
Uh, because that is again more concept when we are talking about internal orders. So still we are in
Okay,
uh,
okay, fine,
with the
fine.
cost element, but detail you need to understand first. We, because say how that will work WS element, first we need to understand the entire internal orders, then it's a replica like WBS. First we need to
Sir,
understand
Okay.
internal order. Okay.
in
I'll
accounting,
cover.
cost center is debit and advertising is the credited, right? So
Yes,
why
yes.
it is getting credited?
So why, which one? Advertising.
Yeah,
We are
yeah, yeah.
moving the cost
Advertising.
from, we are moving the cost from actual. That is where we are transferring the cost from one cost object to the other object.
Hmm. Okay, means receiving call center is getting debited.
Debited, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's talk about the WIP and RP analysis, result analysis. So we'll have that accounting rule, not debit the receiver credit, that concept it goes. Okay. So WP analysis, our work in progress. Again, this is more of internal calculations only we do. Internal calculations, internal calculations we use, mainly we use. Okay. Let's take an example. You know, in the month end, right? In every organizations, like, this is a common, the settlement process is common during the month end, end up closing activities, we perform these settlements and we move the balances. Okay. So let's take one production order, just a high level, that's it, not in detail, let's to understand. So we have a production order to manufacture one finished goods, one FGX, quantity one. So to create the final product, we need additional subcomponents. Okay. What are those subcomponents? Components to to have one production, one finished goods, we have subcomponents. What are those subcomponents? Is number one. So definitely we need a raw material. Okay. And we need a conversion cost. Second one is conversion cost. Conversion cost, or we can say conversion activity. So the mainly, in this work in progress and result analysis, what is the output we'll get? Like, we can estimate, okay, how much the production has been completed. So if you look at in performing during the month end, we can analyze like this. Okay, the product is completed, like the total cost of the product is somewhere 10,000. Okay. So you have done your conversion activities where you have incurred, other expenses and all put together. You have done, you have already consumed 7,000. So nearly 70% of the work of this you already perform. So when you are performing the settlements, right? What system will do? A provisional entry will be posted in the system, because since the product is not completed, it for during the month end activity when we are performing this kind of settlements, a provisional entry will be created. So this will not post directly to the books, but a provision entry will be created. Provision entry will be created. Entry created. Basically, it will create like, debit W IP balance sheet. We'll see work in progress in the balance sheet. BLAN sheet and credit WIP P&L. 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 Okay. Create as a P&L. So, and the cost, it will incur like, 7,000. It will post like this. It is just for, I said, is just for internal calculation purpose. We can perform these kind of calculations and assess, okay, how much work is still pending. This category, like when we are talking about 31 category, hold on one second. Shabda Mahabara. Okay. So this 31 category, which we are talking, it is only a chart of account data. Okay. So once we create this, right, we will create only for the chart of account data, and the settlements, like, the GLs, the how we do settlements, everything we will see in the product costing. Okay. This is main concept which will happen, like how you will perform these kind of settlements. Everything we will see in the product costing. Okay. What we need to understand at the cost element level, whenever you create a GL with category 31 with WIP analysis, this is only for internal calculation purpose. Okay. Where you will see in detail in the product costing. Okay, but you can estimate like how much cost is involved, how much conversion activity. So everything you can see in the product costing. Any question in this two categories, one internal settlement and WIP? This is just a concept, like how we are creating the GLs, but what is the purpose? Any questions? If no, because these are uh, sort of little concepts, deep concepts, but everything will be covered. But now I'm just giving an overview to understand, okay, these are the main core areas where exactly you need to learn. Okay. So the next one, 41.
Sir, can you repeat?
Yeah, tell me.
I'm not understanding the process.
No, no. Okay. See, we have these cost element categories. Okay. Basically, there are two types. One is primary and secondary. When we're talking about secondary cost, the cost can be transferred within CO objects. Okay. From internal order to assessment cycle, cost elements to internal settlements, WIP. Any cost can move within these cost centers, right? Cost, secondary cost, that we call it a secondary cost. And this is very specifically for CO. So some balances you can move from internal orders and some again you to move to the cost centers. Okay. To perform this, each element category has its own purpose. For example, if you're taking 21 as a GL, if you have created and with the cost element category 21, it means where you can transfer the cost from one cost object to the other cost object. It can be done in two ways. Either you will create a GL with the FIGL, you can move the balances. Like here, we had a budget and we have an actual. So once the activity is completed, this actual you will move to the particular cost center because this is an internal order, correct?
Oh,
So to move the settlement, you will create this cost element category. So management said, don't go with the same GL. Please create a separate GL with the cost element category for 21. If we use this, the meaning is this is an internal settlement where you are settling the cost within the CO to the other cost object. Okay. Similarly, for WIP analysis also, we have a cost element category. When you click in the cost element category 31, it means this is for WIP and result analysis. This is only for internal calculations where you want to estimate what is the cost involved, how much production has been done, and what is left over during the month. And you need to perform, right, analysis. See, in very simple, if you take in one line, what is controlling? It'll go with only one simple logic where you are planning. Your management will plan, where you will perform actuals, and definitely there is a variance. Okay. So most of your management reporting, most of your controlling, this is called pillar or whatever you name it as, entire CO will go with this only three objects. You plan something where you have incurred actuals and difference between plan and actual will cause a variance. Then management will pitch in and understand why there is a variance. For example, to better understanding, 20,000 was you planned, but actual incurred was 30,000. So definitely there is a 10,000 extra. Then management will start thinking why we have incurred this extra because we have planned everything and this is what our estimate we have done, but why there is a deviation happen. This is what entire core of your CO revolves, the entire CO circles on this area only. Okay. So like that, to assess each and every objects, we will have this kind of category, a GL cost element category, and that is where we have understanding in detail. Now you understood.
yes.
Okay. So we have something like 41. This you will understand, like, there is a purpose in by last session. I mean, after end of this topic, you will understand where are these GLs will come, where exactly, what is the purpose, where exactly these GLs we will create and everything will be covered. So let's go, let's understand simple way. What are
Means
we,
why there are different kind of cost element categories?
yeah, yeah,
21, 11,
yeah,
41.
that's what you will understand that in detail. You will understand. First, to understand this, you have to follow these steps. I'll cover
Okay.
that. Okay. Okay. So we have overhead. Okay. overhead cost element. Okay. So we need to understand this overhead cost. So 41. Overhead cost. The overhead cost is nothing but your indirect expenses. So when we talk about overhead cost, it's in simple terminology, it's indirect expenses. And these are not directly involved in productions, or this is not directly tied with the productions, or we can say we cannot take into the production, tied into production of a goods, production of a goods. Okay, so what are these? Example, these are like indirect material, indirect labor, and other expenses. Okay, let's take one example. Same. So to manufacture one finished goods, so we have a production order for one piece. So definitely to create a product, we need RMX, RMX 1 kg, raw material 1 kg, RMX 2 kg. Okay, and we need a conversion cost or conversion expenses, or we call it as conversion cost. So conversion is labor activity, and we have machine activity. We have So to produce one finished goods, definitely we need a raw material, and definitely we need labor activities and machine activity. And this, right, RMX and RMX, we call it as material cost. And this activity, right, so this we call it as conversion cost. Okay. So now, so definitely we will have overhead cost. And in the beginning, we said like these are the costs not directly tied into the production, correct? How this overhead cost will be calculated in the CO, right? Like, this cost will be calculated based on some percentages. Okay, this overhead cost will be calculated. This overhead cost will be calculated on some percentages on raw material cost and some percentages on your conversion cost. Example, I'll tell you how this will work in the real time. Conversion cost, conversion cost. Okay. So example, 1 second. Total material cost, we'll say material cost and conversion cost and overhead cost all put together, we call it as production cost. Okay. So For example, if it is material cost is incurring 10,000 and your conversion cost is some 5,000, in the overhead cost, how we will calculate? We will take 10% of material cost and 15% of conversion cost.
These are SAP standard or client will decide this?
Then the client will decide this conversion cost. So these kind of conversion, right? These kind of conversions and all, we will do it in the cost sheet. Okay, there is a separate way of calculating. So entire activity, okay, all this activity we calculate and post to the uh, overhead cost with the help of cost sheet. Okay, there is another concept. We need to understand the cost sheet. Here we will decide, okay, for the particular GL, how much percentage we need to calculate. In detail, we can cover. But what you need to understand, this is where it calculate overhead cost. It directly, one production raw material and labor activity, and then overhead cost will be calculated based on the percentages of raw material and the conversion cost. And this kind of entire conversion we will see in the cost sheet. Okay, this is in detail. Okay, what I'm explaining now is just on high level. So just to understand, okay, how the structure will be. Okay, we will create those GLs with the cost element category 41. Then we will create in the cost sheet, we will mention, okay, 10%. So if you go in the cost sheet, if you say value 10,000, from the 10,000, the overhead cost 10% will be calculated, 1,000 rupees. Then it will take it as an overhead cost for the material. Like this, it will go in the cost sheet. Okay. So, so we'll have, next we have assessment cost element. Okay. Assessment cost. So this kind of cost elements we will create with the cost element category 42 in the system. Okay. Basically, for these assessment cost centers, right, we have two basic approaches. Okay. One is distribution. Distribution. Another one is assessment. These are like, very deep concepts, we need to understand. Distribution. Second one, assessment. The main purpose, right? Like, for example, like, uh, just take one event was there, like, service department has allocated some cost from the service department to the production. Let's take like this. Okay. How system will do. So there is a service department, and we have a production department. Okay. What service department, like, they provide some cleaning facilities and all in the production department, right? So now how the cost or how the activity will be distributed. Okay, in case of distribution, so you will create a GL with cost element 1, and it will go, we will create cost element 2 and cost element 3. Okay, for example, in the service department you have spent 25 hours of labor or 25 hours of man or quantity or 25 hours of hours spent on the service department. How we will transfer? So we will transfer 10 hours to the production department cost center 2. Like this we will transfer. All the settlements will happen like this, 10 hours and remaining 15 hours. Okay. Basically, there are some men's example, like, service department, we spent almost 25 hours. Some people went from service department and they have done cleaning and other services in the production department, right? So by end of the day, like, how we will transfer the cost? So then we will split based on the distribution cycle, like, based on the distribution, we will distribute 10 hours to the cost center, production cost center, and 15 hours to the production cost to 3. Like this, we will segregate. Okay. These are like, basically these cost elements, as an high level I said, these are the cost elements which carry the cost from one department to other, one cost center to another cost center, one cost object to the other cost object. So that's a main purpose on overall we are understanding. Okay. In the distribution, we'll see you can whatever the cost incurred from the service department, and if some people are worked in the production from here, so you can transfer the cost. Any questions so far?
Sir, means for example, uh, we have incurred 20,000 expenses,
Mm-hmm.
right, in service department,
Yeah,
right? So that will be transferred to another cost of here,
correct.
right?
So
So
yes, yes,
20 means 10,000 will be divided among
yes,
the other
yes,
department,
yes. That's right.
correct?
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
So you can calculate like this also. For example,
So based on ratio, it will
10,000.
be calculated
Your voice is breaking.
based on a particular ratio, it will be calculated or anything, uh, another parameter is getting considered.
Sorry, your voice was breaking. Can you just repeat,
Okay.
please?
Yeah. Now am I audible?
Yeah, yeah. Audible. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah. I am asking you, a particular amount will be calculated based on particular ratio.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Here, see the 25 hours. Okay. So this 10,000, the cost which incurred, but the main activity is here, the number of hours. How this 10,000 will split between these two departments. So this 10,000, and I put a formula also, how it does. See 10,000 into 10 hours divided by total hours. So then 4,000 will go for the cost center, production cost center 2, and 6,000 will go to the cost center, production cost center 3. Like this, it will distribute with the help of distribution.
Okay,
Okay.
understood. Okay, to obtain the cost of particular department, this is
Yes.
true.
Yes. This is a rule. Okay. So the main purpose is like this only. Like if you go in detail and understand, like once we get into more of cost elements, internal orders, when we go in deep, then you will understand distribution cycles, assessment cycles. So then you will understand you can move the cost from one department to other department. This is where in a high level, like for example, like maybe in your organization we'd have seen, for that whole year they will budget, they will plan the budget. If there are 10 departments are there, then they will allocate the cost. So then they start doing performing planning, and at the month end they will cross check what are those actuals, where the cost was incurring. It is complete flow, like the entire CO. It goes like this. First management has planned something, then if there is an actuals, so then they'll start. If there is a variance, then they will analyze. So you can move from one cost to other cost. For example, you have admin department, so you have to give wages and salaries, and definitely your main production team where do the labor activities. From expenses you need to pay from one department to other department, or your men will go and serve in that activity. So everything you can move the cost with this help of distributions and assessment cycles. Okay, that you will understand in detail, but at very high level of cost element you need to understand. Okay, 42, when we created some GL with the 42 cost element category, it means where you are transferring the cost from one cost object to the other cost object. Okay.
Means this is only assessment.
Distribution and assessment both works like this only.
Okay. So what is the difference between distribution and assessment?
So in detail, we need to go in deep and understand. Okay, because I cannot give one statement. It has a lot of in-depth conceptuals. Okay, you will understand slowly, but as of now
Oh,
you understand, like where you can transfer the cost from one department to other department. Okay, very
okay.
deep concepts are there. Okay, it's just I'm just giving an overview. Okay. We'll go in detail. Okay, so then we have last category 43, activity cost or activity allocation cost. Allocation cost. Each activity, right? Each activity, for example, like in the same example which we discussed. So we have finished goods, one piece we need to manufacture. So definitely we have material cost, material cost, raw materials, and we have a conversion cost. Again, labor activity, machine activity, and definitely we'll have a overhead cost. So material overhead on again 10%, 15% ratio. Each activity, right, will be created under this type. You know, each activity, for example, to for a conversion activity, there are so many activities to convert raw material into finished goods. Each activity we will track. We will track, and when you're tracking, if you create the cost element category as a 43, sorry, each activity we will track. And if you create with the cost element category 43, then this will be like activity cost allocation. Okay. So in simple, there are so many materials will be there, so many conversion activities there. For example, if you want to manufacture some product, you will have labor activity, you will have machine activity, there will be some lathe activity, so cleaning activity will be there. All the activities we will track, and you can assign some quantities for that. And how we will recognize from the system any cost element you've created with the cost element category 43, then we will say this is an activity allocation cost. Okay, this is on very high level, but now just to summarize, like where exactly we will use this. Okay, this whatever we are talking about cost activity allocation cost, right? Whenever we are discussing the cost centers, right, we will cover in more detail on this topic. All these activity cost allocations will come in the cost centers and production cost, product costing. We will cover in detail on activity cost allocations. We will cover this topic in detail more in cost center and product costing. Whereas this assessment, right, this one we will cover only in cost centers. Mainly we will cover this, more concepts will come in cost center. When we are touching the cost centers, we will talk more about this assessment cost. And overhead cost. Overhead cost more will come in product costing. When we are discussing product costing, we will cover more product costing. Okay. So, and that WIP analysis again, so it will come in production cost. Product costing will cover more on these details in detail. So 21 will come in the internal orders. When we are discussing internal orders and production cost, we will cover more on these topics. Okay. So, and yesterday we just touched base on the external settlements. This one again will come more in internal orders, where you're creating AUC assets, you're transferring some balances. So more of internal orders. Okay. During that topic, we will cover more. So this sales deductions on, right, whenever we are touching based on sales orders, this sales deductions and these cost element category will come. Okay. So, and 11, this is again revenues GLs. Okay. And the primary cost, this will cover everywhere. Whenever you want to, that's what I said, when you want to create same GLs, you will create a primary cost. Okay. This will cover everywhere in the CO. Okay. Everywhere. So every area it will come this primary cost, but mainly subcategory. When when you are seeing this primary cost, you need to understand, okay, these are the cost element category and it has its own purpose when you create these GLs with the dedicated cost element category. Okay. In the secondary cost also, you will create a GL, but when you tag this 21 category, so then it becomes an internal settlement and it has its own purpose. Okay. So any questions so far? So I'll just show you one example how to create this primary cost and secondary cost. Before going, it is just what you need to understand, because this is just a basic to before getting into the cost centers. So cost element is again nothing but it's a GLs. So that GL will specify, because cost centers, if you look at, The cost element itself is, this is a base. It carry the cost from one object to the other object. So you need to decide at the time of GL creation how you want to create, whether this is an FI where it carry the cost, then you have to create. Okay, there's a question. Can you please repeat 42 element cost category? Okay. This is assessment cost center, because it is too beginning meaning. Just understand, because these are the depth concepts like distribution and assessment cycle, right? These are the very depth concept. Um, it cannot cover at the beginning level, but just what you need to understand in the CO, with the help of these cost elements, you know, you can transfer the cost from one department to the other department with the help of distribution cycles or assessments. With the help of distribution and assessment, you can transfer this cost. Okay. So I'll cover more on this topic, but at this beginning, at this stage, it is very hard to understand these concepts. Okay. I'll cover this, but in detail concepts are there. But what you need to understand, a particular department has incorrect cost, but later you need to transfer those costs from one department to other with the help of key factors, so that you can see here like how we incur some 25 hours spent on the production department. Some people went from service department to production department, and that's 25 hours. How they split based on two cost centers, based on number of hours, 10 hours spent, and what is the cost incurred in the 10,000. There is a simple formula: 10,000 divided by 10 divided total hours. So we said like 4,000 will go to this cost center, and production cost center 2, and the production cost center 6,000. But on high level, you understand this with these GLs. Where exactly we will cover, these are the main things. When we are talking about internal settlement, more of internal orders, product costings, when we are performing, right, you will see in detail of what is this internal settlement, how these budgets, actuals, variance, how it is performed, why we need to go with the same GL, why we have to create a separate cost element category. Everything you will understand. For when you're going for the WIP, this will be used more in the product costings. So then you can estimate and understand what is the production, how much is left, all sort of calculations you can do. Overhead cost, again, it's purely on product costing. We will cover more of indirect expenses. And assessment cycle, again, when you are understanding the cost center, so then you will understand this completely, how to transfer the cost from one department to other department. Activity, again, we will cover this in cost center and product costing. I want to show you the structure so that you will understand now how the CO structure was defined. In the beginning of the first day class, right? So this is where we touch base the entire structure of controlling. So now you had some ideas now. By looking at the cost element category, we touched some concepts will come in cost center, some concepts will come in internal orders, again in the product costing. Everywhere these cost elements. Without cost element, you cannot transfer anything, meaning the cost elements are, it's a part of your entire CO. Okay, because the values, because those are the exact costs will carry forward from FI to CO or CO to CO. So here in the overhead costing, we will understand in detail of cost centers, in detail of internal orders, how to create internal orders, how to do the settlements. Once you close the internal order, what are the next steps? Okay, how we will transfer the cost from one cost object to the other cost object, everything. In the product cost planning, we'll understand in detail each activity, MTO scenarios, make to order, you know, and make to sales. Okay, ETO, engineering to order, everything in detail we will cover. Okay, and COPA also, account based COPA, costing based COPA, in material ledger, legal valuation, group valuation. Okay, you will understand in detail. To understand all this, you should know about these basics. Okay, so any questions so far?
What is the difference between assessment cost and internal settlement? Because through internal settlement, we give the set we give settlement role in
Yeah,
KO01 in internal
yeah.
order.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we give the settlement role in through assessment cost in KSV1 T code.
Mm-hmm.
So in both the T codes, we are transferring the cost from one cost center to another cost center. So what's the basic difference between these two? Because I understand for both of the cost element categories, we are transferring the cost
Cost, right?
from one cost
Mhm.
object to another cost object.
Right.
So just to understand the basic difference between these two cost element categories.
Yeah, little in detail, we need to explain this concept. Okay, so on a high level, we cannot explain. I'll take up this question, but you need to wait for some more days. Meaning, understand in detail, because everything is, you know, first we need to understand like how the cost centers are structures are created, how you move the balances, everything we need to understand. I'll cover this question. Okay,
Okay, sure.
you need a time, because when we start explaining now, it is too hard to digest, because here only most of the people will get a lot of doubts, how much, because when you understand the cost element category itself, it is too heavy to understand and digest, because we never seen this. Okay, maybe we would have seen primary cost and all those things, but when it comes to CO, assessments, distributions, and these all are very new. Okay, but it has to be go very slowly to understand a high level.
Okay, no
Okay,
problem.
I'll cover this. No worry. That's a valid question, because when we go into those assessments and distribution, once we understand the cost centers, you will understand the very key how we are moving the cost and activity. Everything is interlinked. Okay. In one line, it just I can give an answer, but it not make any detailed sense. But I'll take it up. Okay. Okay. So
Thanks.
so so as I said, like you everyone knows like how to create the GLs and all. Just at the first stage, when you're creating some primary GLs or secondary GLs, you need to decide, okay, what GLs you're going to create. Okay, so I'll show one example. So for example, I want to create, just take, there is a creation of GL FSP0. You can create a GL account. I'll show you one expense GL, how it plays important role. So we need to create under group first. And you know this, right? This is simple, like how to create the GLs and all. Let's take, I'm deciding, while creating a GLs only, I decide, okay, I'm creating a rent GL. Again, factory rent and all, and that cost should go to the cost center. This is an FI GL, but the cost should go to the FI for calculations. Okay. And the cost estimation and all those stuff. So that what you will decide at the first time, this should be a primary cost. Once you click this as a primary cost, then you can select expenses. Then you create rent expense. Okay. So this is you are creating a GL at your group chart of account. Okay. So now you need to create a GL at operational level. Okay. Same GL you will create at operational. You know, this is a primary cost and you want to transfer the cost to the cost center for the CO. What you will do, you will create, and then you will link whatever the GLs you have created, the group. Okay. Now you have created these two GLs, one at operational level, one at group level. Now you will go to the FS00, which is centrally, and you are creating a GL at your company code level. Okay. So now once you click here, see here, all the data came from your operational and group. You go to the controlling data, and since it is a primary cost, your cost element category will be activated. So once you are assigned this cost, once you make it a 01, and this is a FIGL, it carries the cost from FI to CO with the help of cost element category. And this cost element category, we call it as cost carriers. Okay, what it does, it carry the expenses from FI and it perform to the GL. Okay, so now what we will do, we will create G007, G04 cost accounts, then save it. So always just go and see how it is tightly integrated. So you created your chart of account, you have it operational chart of account, and you have your controlling area. Everything is tightly integrated. Okay. So, and you will see here group, and you will see at the company code level, you have your GL, and this is linked to your group. And if you go here, it has operational chart, it has country specific chart. Okay. Everything. So like this, you need to create some GLs and make your system
I
ready.
don't understand one thing.
Yeah, tell me,
Yeah.
please.
So, so you have created this GL with the both country like operation chart of account and group chart of account. Okay.
Correct.
Only at the time of creation group chart of account you mentioned this group account number. Operation chart of account you did not mention this group account number. Why
No,
so?
there is a, no, 1 second. There is a link. Okay. If you go, if you understand the org structure, there is a transaction OB62 slash OB62. So my company is HU10. See here, first to understand this, at the beginning of our FI structure, we created a structure like this. We maintained three company codes. So one was main company and India was my sister concern. When to have a group reporting,
Yeah.
all the company codes should have same operational chart of account. Okay. With this logic, what we did while creating our chart of account, for to perform a group reporting, right, all the company codes should have same operational chart of account. In the operational chart of account, we will link our group chart. Okay, since India is following a different fiscal year, then we have created another chart of account for a local reporting country specific chart. That is a reason for India we have this one HUIN. Okay, for this we have maintained
Okay.
operational chart of account and that link is here OB13. If you go HU10, see
Alternative
here,
means country specific.
if you 10 see here in the operational chart of account you have linked your group chart of account when you're performing the consolidation
Okay.
group reporting, right? So the data will be fetched from here.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
from here, yes, that's a logic. Okay.
Sir,
So yeah,
for
tell me.
country specific chart of account, alternative chart of account.
Yeah, yeah, alternate. Yes. If again it depends, like in India you are performing uh, April to March, different physical year, right? You want your reports, everything in because my company, I'm just taking an example, my company in Jan to December, US company, but India we are following April to March. So then we will create, operational country specific chart of account for alternate. I mean, as you mentioned, it is alternative chart of account. Okay. For the local reportings and all, we need to perform this. Okay. This is the basic structure of FI. See, whatever we have touch base, it's just on very high level and it goes in detail. Then this is where uh, just not only creating cost element, people should understand like how cost centers internet, it goes very deep. Okay, to understand this structure, so first we need to have at least basic FI structure, how we have three company codes, how we will create ledgers, physical year variants, you know leading ledgers, non-leading ledgers, accounting principle. This is like mandatory. Okay. So once you have this mandatory, then people should understand like, cost elements. Okay. What are the type of cost elements? How it does, what is does. I mean, what we will do with the primary, what we will do with the um, secondary. Then we will start with the structure, this one. Now we are ready with our system. We will go and understand first with the overhead cost, then in the overhead cost we will start understanding the cost centers. Like this it goes clear on high level. Okay, any questions so far? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yeah, because it is just a structure, guys. You need to understand this is not something we still honestly, if you speak whatever we have discussed, we have just discussed 1% of the controlling. Whatever four classes we have discussed, it is just 1%. Okay. So, but I mean, user should know the basics. Like, okay, if you have multiple structure, what should be your operational, how country specific. While you're creating the GLs, you should understand how you're creating the GLs, ledgers, so currency settings, everything. So in the CO, before beginning with the CO, and this is what the structure. Cost element is a base. Without cost element, then you will get confused. Like move the cost from one object to the other object, then you will get confused. So now cost element you understood. So now we are very ready with to begin with the cost centers. So just basic with the cost center, and the structure goes like this now. We'll spend more time on cost centers. Once cost center is done, then we will understand the internal order. This entire topic is called overhead costing. Okay. So then with this, then we will cover up with the product costing. Like it goes like this. So whatever these 4 classes we have done, it's just a 1% of just 1% of your CO. Okay. At least how was the session? I mean, I just want to take a pause now